You are lying very still in a quiet nursery in old London, long after the lamps have been turned low. The window is open just a finger's width, and a thin ribbon of cool night air drifts across the coverlet, smelling faintly of chimney smoke and rain on the cobbles and something else. Something sweeter, something that does not belong to London at all. The nursery is hushed. A rocking horse stands quite still in the corner, its painted eye catching the last glow of the fire. A kennel rests near the hearth, and the shadows of toys lie scattered across the rug like sleeping creatures. The clock on the mantel ticks, very slowly, as though it too is preparing for bed. You feel the weight of your blanket soft and warm across your chest. You feel the pillow cradle the back of your head, and you feel, somewhere just behind your eyelids, the gentle pull of sleep beginning to gather, like mist gathering over a pond. Outside the window, the rooftops of Bloomsbury stretch away beneath a sky of deep, deep blue. The chimney pots stand in quiet rows. A single star glimmers above the slates, and then another, and then another. The second star to the right shines a little brighter than the rest. It has been waiting for you. From somewhere very far away, or perhaps very close, you hear the faintest sound, a small, bright sound, like a tiny bell wrapped in silk. It is not quite music. It is not quite laughter. It is the sound of a story beginning to come closer. You do not need to move. You do not need to do anything at all. The night is gathering itself softly around you, like a great velvet curtain being drawn. And behind that curtain, there is a place you have always half remembered, a place where the windows blow open by themselves, and the curtains lift like wings, and the floor of the nursery becomes the floor of a much larger world. Let your breath grow slow. Let your shoulders sink. Let your hands rest, palms upward, as though to receive a small handful of fairy dust. You are quite safe. You are quite warm. And you are quite ready to drift out through the window and follow that small, bright sound toward the second star to the right. Stir again, and straight on. And this time they lift fully, like two pale wings unfurling. The window swings wide of its own accord, and the room begins to fill, ever so gently, with the cool blue air of a sky that does not belong to any ordinary night. You feel something settle on your shoulder, light as a moth. It is a small drift of golden dust, warm and tingling and faintly fragrant, like the inside of a flower. Another speck lands on the back of your hand, another in your hair. The dust gathers around you in slow, lazy spirals, glittering in the firelight. And then, very softly, you find that you are no longer quite resting on the bed. You are floating, just a little, a hand's breadth above the coverlet. Then two, the blanket falls away as gently as a sigh. You feel weightless, hollow-boned, as though you have been made of moonlight all along and only just remembered. A boy is at the window. He is sitting on the sill with his knees drawn up, dressed in skeleton leaves and cobwebs, his hair tossed by a wind that smells of pine and salt. He grins at you, a grin made entirely of mischief and kindness, and beckons you with one easy hand. You do not need to speak. In Neverland, intentions travel faster than words. You simply turn yourself toward the open window, and the night slides under you, and the breeze takes hold of your shoulders like a patient older sister. The little bright sound is closer now, a darting, tinkling song, and a single point of golden light circles your head twice and zips out into the dark. Tinkerbell, scolding nothing in particular. The boy laughs without sound and steps backwards into the air as though air were a thing one could perfectly well stand upon. You follow. There is no falling. There is only a slow, smooth tilting forward, the way a leaf tilts when it is ready to leave the branch. The nursery slips away beneath you. The rooftops of London tilt and turn. The chimney pots become little dark soldiers, growing smaller and smaller and smaller still. Above you, the second star to the right grows brighter, It is no longer a star at all, it is a doorway, and you are drifting toward it on a current of warm golden dust.
London rooftops
In no
fall
hurry,
away
beneath you
whatsoever.
like the last pages of a closing book. You drift higher and higher still until the city is only a soft scattering of yellow lamplight spread across the dark, like a handful of stars that lost their way and settled on the earth instead. The air up here is wonderfully cool and wonderfully clean. It smells faintly of rain that has finished falling and of something green and far away. Your hair stirs lightly. Your fingers trail through wisps of cloud as soft as combed wool. You feel no fear of the height. The fairy dust hums quietly in your bones, and the dust knows what it is doing. Peter glides ahead of you, hands behind his head, his skeleton leaf tunic rustling. He turns himself onto his back as easily as a swimmer in still water and grins up at the stars as though they were old friends he had not seen in a week. Tinkerbell darts in figures of 8 around him, leaving little trails of gold that fade slowly behind her. "This way," Peter mouths, though no sound comes, and somehow you hear him perfectly. You pass through a great drift of cloud. The world goes silver white for a long, soft moment. You can see nothing but gentle brightness all around, and you can feel the cloud's coolness against your cheeks like a damp cloth laid by a kind hand. And then the cloud parts, and beneath you stretches the open sea. It is the sea between sleeping and dreaming. The waves are slow and very dark, and silvered all along their crests by a moon that seems unusually large and unusually patient. You can see the shapes of sleeping whales far below, drifting like long, peaceful islands of their own. A flock of dream birds passes beneath your feet, going somewhere unhurried. The horizon holds a single faint glow, green and gold and soft. You feel, before you see, that this is where you are bound. The glow grows ever so slowly with each easy breath you take. Peter's silhouette tilts toward it. Tinkerbell shoots ahead, a small golden comet, eager to be home. You close your eyes for a moment, just to feel the wind. When you open them again, the glow on the horizon has become an island, curled in the sea like a sleeping animal with the unhurried patience of a flower opening. First, it is a smudge of light, then a green curl, then a true shape with hills and forests and pale crescents of beach and a lagoon set into its side like a held breath of turquoise. Neverland. You know its name without being told. Everyone knows the name of Neverland. It has been waiting in the corner of your memory ever since you were very small, tucked behind the wallpaper, folded into the lining of your favorite coat. And now here it is, real beneath you, and somehow you are not surprised at all. The air around the island is warmer. It carries a confusion of scents, pine resin and salt and wood smoke, and the sweetness of strange flowers that bloom only at night. Somewhere, very faintly, a drum is being tapped, slowly by someone who is not in a hurry. Somewhere else, a wave rolls onto sand and rolls back and rolls in again. Peter banks gently in the air like a gull, and you find yourself banking with him, with no thought required. You spiral downward in long, slow loops, the way a feather spirals. The island turns beneath you. You see the dark green canopy of the forest. You see the silvered curve of a river. You see, at the heart of the island, a single great tree, taller than the others, its branches spread like the ribs of a paper lantern. Tinkerbell rings once, a single, clear note, as though to announce your arrival to no one in particular. You pass low over the treetops now. Leaves brush the soles of your feet, soft as a cat's tail. A night bird with eyes like little lamps watches you go by, blinking once, slowly, in approval. A pair of pale moths spiral upward to greet you, and then drift away again, their business their own. The forest opens. A glade appears below you, a small round clearing carpeted in moss, ringed by mushrooms with caps as red as embers. Fairy lights move within it in slow constellations, settling and rising again like sparks above a fire that does not burn anything. Peter touches down without a sound. You follow, your toes meeting the moss as gently as a snowflake meets a window pane. You have arrived, and nothing Nothing at all. Fairy glade is the quietest place you have ever stood in. Even the air seems to be tiptoeing. The moss beneath your feet is springy and cool and very slightly damp, and it gives off the green secret smell of moss that has been undisturbed for a long, long time. The ring of mushrooms glows softly from within as though each one held a small candle. Among them, here and there, you can make out tiny pathways worn into the moss and paths no larger than a teaspoon. And in places, very small benches, very small lanterns hung on very small hooks, very small doors set into the bases of trees. The fairies themselves are everywhere, and yet you must look gently to see them. They move in slow, patient drifts, like fireflies that have grown a little sleepy. One settles on a fern frond and folds her wings around herself like a shawl. Another rides on the back of a large, dignified beetle, going somewhere important at no particular speed. A third hovers beside a flower, listening to it breathe. Tinkerbell flits down to meet a few of her sisters. There's a soft chiming exchange, a small, bright conversation, half music, half gossip, and then she returns to Peter's shoulder and tucks herself there as small and warm as an ember. Peter sits down cross-legged in the moss, and you find yourself sitting with him, with your hands resting easy in your lap. He is not speaking. He does not need to. In Neverland, silence is its own kind of welcome. You look up. The branches above the glade weave together into a low green roof, and through the gaps between the leaves you can see the deep blue of the sky and a great handful of stars and the slow drift of golden fairy dust rising from the glade and joining them. It is hard to tell after a while where the dust ends and the stars begin. A fairy alights briefly on the back of your hand. She weighs nothing at all. She looks at you with grave little eyes, decides you are acceptable, and lifts away again on a breath of wind. Your eyelids feel pleasantly heavy, your shoulders pleasantly soft. The glade hums faintly, the way a beehive hums, only kinder. You are exactly where you are meant to be, and you are exactly as still while in the glade. Peter rises to his feet without a sound. He offers you a hand, his palm cool and rough as though carved from a piece of bark, and you let him draw you up. The fairies make no fuss at your going. One or two lift their tiny lanterns in a sort of farewell, and then settle back to whatever quiet business fairies attend to when no one is watching. A narrow path leads out of the glade, winding away between the trees. You follow it slowly. The moss gives way to soft earth, scattered with pine needles that crunch faintly underfoot, like the turning of pages in a very old book. The forest closes around you, but it is a friendly closing, the trees standing tall and well-mannered like courteous tall uncles in green coats. There is moonlight coming down through the branches in long, slanting beams. Each beam shows a slow column of dust motes, and within each column, sometimes the small, still shape of a moth hovering as though listening for something. You pass a stream that you hear before you see, a low, contented chuckle of water sliding over stones. When you reach it, you find a flat rock stretched across like a small bridge, and a single gray heron standing on one leg in the shallows, eyes half closed, dreaming whatever it is that herons dream. It does not so much as glance at you as you cross. Peter walks ahead, lithe and careless, his bare feet making no sound at all. Tinkerbell flits a little above him, casting a gentle pool of gold light upon the path, like a tiny bobbing lantern. The forest smells of damp bark and old leaves, and somewhere, faintly, of wood smoke, as though a small fire were burning, somewhere just out of sight, with kind people seated around it. You become aware gradually that the ground is sloping downward, not sharply, just a long, easy descent, the way a long sigh descends. The trees grow taller here, the shadows grow softer, and somewhere ahead you can hear, quite distinctly now, a very small sound, like a child humming inside a hollow tree. Your feet move of their own accord. You do not feel tired exactly, you feel gathered, folded gently inward, like a letter being placed into its envelope at the close of a long, to an enormous tree. broader at the base than any tree you have ever seen, its bark furrowed into long, slow valleys. Around its roots, the earth dips into soft hollows, and from one of these hollows comes a faint, warm, golden glow, spilling upward through a knothole as though someone had left a candle burning at the bottom of a well. This is the home under the ground, the home of the lost boys. Peter pats the trunk of the tree fondly, the way one pats the flank of a friendly old horse. He shows you, with a tilt of his head, the cluster of 7 hollow trees that ring the Great One, each tree a different size, each with its own dark, secret entrance worn smooth by the passage of small bodies sliding down to bed. You choose one, or perhaps it chooses you. You sit at its mouth. You feel the cool, polished wood against your back. Peter nods as though to say, "It will not take long, and you will not bump anything." You lean back and the tree welcomes you in, and you slide very, very slowly down through the heart of the trunk, as gently as a leaf settling through still water. At the bottom, you find yourself in a single great room, dim and warm and round, dug out of the earth and roofed by tangled roots. The roots curl down from the ceiling like the rafters of a hobbit's hall. A small fire glows quietly in the hearth, more embered than flame, casting its honey-colored light onto everything. There is a long, low table, much scratched and well-loved. There are wooden bowls. There are small, odd treasures heaped into little nests, feathers and curious stones, and the half of a broken compass and an acorn cap full of berries. Beds line the walls, not proper beds, but cozy hollows lined with leaves and old soft cloaks, each just the right size for a small, well-tired body. The lost boys themselves are already mostly asleep. You see only the tops of tousled heads peeking out of their nests, and the slow rise and fall of small breathing chests beneath patchwork covers. One of them murmurs in his sleep, something about flying, and turns over and is still again. The room hums with the deep, settled quiet of his own tree a moment after you, landing on the earthen floor with the easy thump of someone who has done it 10,000 times. He looks around at his sleeping boys, and his face, usually so full of motion, goes still and almost solemn for an instant, the way the face of any captain goes still when he counts his crew and finds them all safe. Tinkerbell flutters up to her own little chamber, a curtained alcove set into the wall, draped with a scrap of silk no bigger than a handkerchief. You can just make out, through the gap in the curtain, a tiny bed with a coverlet of rose petals, and a tiny mirror, and a tiny dressing table heaped with even tinier things. She slips inside. The curtain falls. The room dims by one small light. Peter motions you toward an empty hollow in the wall. Soft, leaf-lined, and exactly your size, as though it had been waiting for you all along. You sit upon its edge. The leaves rustle softly under you, and they smell faintly of bay and of clean rain. A folded cloak lies at the foot of the hollow, ready to be pulled up to your chin. You settle in slowly. The wall of earth at your back is cool but not cold. Above you, the curling roots make a kind of canopy, and from one of them hangs a small, dim lantern that gives off no heat, only the gentle suggestion of light, as though it were remembering what light was like. The fire in the hearth pops quietly once. A lost boy mumbles in his dreams. Somewhere very far above, on the surface of the island, you can hear the faint shush of wind in the topmost leaves of the great tree, sounding almost like the sea. Peter sits cross-legged near the hearth, his elbows on his knees, his chin on his fists. He gazes into the embers. He does not speak. He is in this moment simply the boy who keeps watch, though tonight there's nothing to keep watch for, nothing at all. And even he begins to nod very slightly, like a flower nodding in a slow breeze. You pull the cloak up to your chin. It is heavier than it looks, in the comforting way that good blankets are heavier than they look. Your eyelids descend just a little. The room glows softly, ready to sleep. Everything is well. There is more of Neverland to drift through gently before the deepest hush settles over you. Peter looks up from the embers and smiles and lifts one finger, and beckons you upward again. There is, he seems to say, a place by the water you ought to see by moonlight. You rise from the hollow. You climb back up through your tree slowly, helped by the tree itself, which seems to lift you the way a kind hand lifts a kitten. You emerge into the cool forest air, and Peter is already there, waiting on a low branch, swinging one leg. Together you walk, not fly this time, but walk slowly through a different part of the wood. The trees here are stranger. Their leaves are silver on one side and dark on the other, and they turn lazily in the breeze, so the whole forest seems to flicker like firelight on water. The air grows steadily warmer and saltier and softer. The earth beneath your feet becomes sandy. You hear the lagoon before you see it. It begins as a low hush, a long, slow sigh, and then becomes a gentle lapping, water against rock. And under the lapping, you begin to make out something else, a kind of singing, not loud, not nearby. Voices, several of them, weaving in and out of one another, with no words you can quite catch, only long, slow, rounded notes, like a lullaby sung in a language made entirely of vowels. The trees thin, the path bends, and there it is opening before you, the Mermaid Lagoon. It is a great half circle of water, ringed by dark cliffs and pale, smooth stones. The moon hangs above it, very full and very calm, and the moon's reflection lies on the water as a long silver road. The lagoon itself is impossibly clear. You can see, even from where you stand, the slow drifting of pale fronds far below the surface, and the soft dart of fish like flecks of mother of pearl. There are rocks scattered across the lagoon, some no larger than a footstool, some great hunched islands of stone. And on these rocks, half glimpsed, half imagined, sit the mermaids, combing their long, slow hair and singing very softly to no one but themselves. Cool stone at the lagoon's edge. The stone has been warmed all day by the sun and is only just now beginning to cool. It is like sitting upon the back of a sleeping animal that does not mind being sat upon. The water comes in toward you in long, lazy sheets, climbs a little way up the sand, considers and slides back again. It does this over and over with the patient regularity of breath. After a time, you find that you are breathing along with it. In, when the water reaches up the shore. Out, when it slides away. In again as the next wave gathers, and out as it falls. The mermaids do not seem to notice you, and that is perhaps the kindest thing about them. Their attention is turned entirely upon themselves and one another. One sits upon a flat rock with her tail curled beneath her, drawing a comb of pale shell through hair the color of seaweed. Another floats on her back in the shallows, arms spread wide, eyes closed, smiling faintly at the moon. A third is plaiting strands of bright sea flowers into a long garland, slowly, slowly, as though there were all the time in the world. Their song winds on. It is the kind of song that does not seem to begin or end, only to be there, like the lagoon itself. Sometimes it dips low, almost into a hum. Sometimes it lifts, and a single clear note rises up and hangs in the air for a long, soft moment before settling back into the rest. You notice that the lagoon is dotted here and there with little floating things. The closed cups of night-blooming lilies drifting on their broad green pads. As you watch, one of them opens very slowly, and from inside it lifts a tiny, sleepy fairy who stretches, looks around at the night, and curls up again upon her flower bed without bothering to fly anywhere. Peter has settled himself beside you, knees drawn up, arms loose. He is not restless now. Even he, who is mostly motion, has been quieted by this place. Tinkerbell perches on his shoulder, her wings stilled, her tiny head tilted as though listening to the song, the water laps, the mermaids sing, the moon shines. Nothing at all is happening. At the water's edge, the mermaids begin, one by one, to slip back into the lagoon. Not in any hurry, not all at once. One simply leans sideways from her rock and pours herself into the water as gently as cream poured from a jug. Another submerges all but her eyes and watches the moon for a moment from just beneath the surface before sinking out of sight altogether. Their song does not stop exactly. It only grows quieter and deeper, as though it had moved into a lower room of the same house. You see them faintly, beneath the water now. Long, pale shapes turning slowly, like the shadows of clouds drifting across the bottom of a cup. A flick of a tail silver in the moonlight, a drift of hair, and then they are gone deeper than your eye can follow, and the lagoon's surface settles into a perfect polished calm. The singing continues, only now it seems to come from inside the water itself, softened, blurred, as though heard through the wall of an adjoining room where someone you love is humming to themselves. A small boat, made of a single curled leaf, drifts across the silver path of the moon. There is no one in it. It simply drifts in no particular direction, as though out for a stroll on the surface of the lagoon. Peter rises beside you, very slowly, and offers his hand once more. You take it. You stand. The cool sand is fine and soft between your toes. He leads you along the shore, around the curve of the lagoon. The cliffs rise on your right, dark and friendly. The water lies on your left, smooth as a mirror that has been breathed upon and wiped clean. Above, the stars are thick and slow. You pass a small cave in the cliff, half hidden by hanging vines, and from inside you can hear the soft snore of something. Perhaps a bear, perhaps a sea creature, perhaps something Neverland has not bothered to give a name to. Whatever it is sleeping deeply, and that is all that matters. You walk on. The night is enormous and gentle. You are very small inside it, and very safe, and very welcome. The lagoon song follows you for a little while, growing fainter, until at last it is no louder than the memory of a song. And then, only the memory of a memory. And then, only a feeling of having been sung to very slow while to a place where the cliffs lower themselves into the sand and a path opens inland again. You leave the lagoon behind, though its calm seems to come with you, settled now somewhere beneath your ribs. This new path winds upward through low dunes, and the dunes are soft and warm and silvery under the moon. Seagrasses rise around your knees and brush against you, whispering gently, as though sharing small secrets in a language only the wind can translate. At the top of the dunes, you pause. From here, you can see almost the whole of Neverland spread out beneath you, like a map drawn in dreams. There is the dark green forest where you walked. There is the great tree just visible, with the faintest glow at its base, the home under the ground, still warm, still safe. There is the lagoon, smooth as poured glass, and the silver road of the moon stretching out to sea. And there, far off across a slow-rolling plain, there are the soft fires of an Indian camp, with thin, straight columns of smoke rising into the still air, and the slow heartbeat of a drum, gentle as a parent's hand patting a child to sleep. And far out in the bay, so far that it seems painted into the night rather than really there, lies a great ship at anchor. Its sails are furled, its lanterns are dim, it rocks in place very slowly, the way a cradle rocks. This is the pirate ship. But tonight, even the pirates are asleep. You can see no one on the deck. You can see only the slow tilt of the masts against the stars, and a single small lantern at the stern, glowing like a held breath. In Neverland tonight, nothing is fighting anything, nothing is chasing anything. The drum beats slow, the waves roll slow, the sails hang slow, even the smoke rises slow. A night bird passes overhead, its wings making the faintest of whispers. You watch it cross the moon and disappear into the dark. Peter stands beside you, hands on his hips, surveying his island the way a king surveys a kingdom that has finally, blessedly, learned how to rest. Tinkerbell yawns, a tiny silver yawn, and tucks her face into the crook of Peter's neck. You stand a long, long while at the top of the dunes, simply looking, letting Neverland soak into you, letting yourself become part of it slowly, your feet sinking and rising in the soft sand. The path bends inland again, away from the sea, and you find yourself walking now through a meadow you had not noticed before. A wide, open meadow with grasses that come up almost to your waist, silvered along their tips by the moon. Fireflies move through this meadow in their thousands. They do not blink in any agitated way. They float, slow and considering, each one a tiny floating coal, drifting upward, drifting sideways, settling sometimes upon a stalk of grass, and then lifting off again as though remembering a small errand. The whole meadow glows from within, the way a pond glows when the sun sets just so behind it. The grasses are warm at their tops and cool at their roots. They smell sweet, of clover, and of something faintly like vanilla. As you walk, your hands brush the seed heads, and small clouds of golden pollen rise around your fingers and settle again, like a slow snow falling upward and then making up its mind. In the middle of the meadow, you come upon a circle of flat stones, mossy and old, arranged like a tiny council. You sit upon one of them. It is exactly the right height and exactly the right warmth, and the moss along its top is exactly the right softness. It is as though the stone had been arranging itself very slowly over a great many seasons in anticipation of you. Peter sits opposite you, knees drawn up. Tinkerbell floats lazily between you, leaving a curling trail of dust that hangs in the air long after she has moved on, like the wake of a tiny golden boat. A fox crosses the meadow at the edge of your sight. It does not look at you. Its tail brushes the grass, gathers a little of the silvery dew, and trots on. Some way behind it follows a half-grown rabbit, who also does not look at you and does not seem afraid of the fox, because in Neverland tonight, no one is hunting, and no one is hunted, and everything that walks is simply walking. You rest your elbows on your knees and your chin on your hands, and you watch the meadow breathe. Inhale, and the fireflies rise. Exhale, and they settle. Inhale again. Exhale again. Your own breath has gone perfectly soft. It does not need attending to. It is simply happening as the meadow is happening. Last you rise from the council of stones. The fireflies follow you for a little way, a small, polite procession, as though they had elected themselves your honor guard. They drift along beside your shoulders, 2 or 3 at a time, and then peel off one by one, back into the meadow until only a single firefly remains, riding on a strand of your hair like a small green star. The path from the meadow leads you into a stand of slender, white-barked trees, where the moonlight comes down in pale stripes. The ground here is carpeted with tiny blue flowers, and they are closed for the night, each one tucked into itself as neatly as a folded handkerchief. As you pass, 1 or 2 of them stir, just a little, half opening, but they do not wake. They only adjust themselves, the way a sleeper adjusts a pillow without surfacing. From somewhere in the trees comes the slow, low call of a wood dove. Hoo, hoo, it says, and then a long pause, and then hoo, again. The pauses between the calls are almost the most wonderful part. They are full of nothing at all in the most beautiful way. You pass beneath a great spider's web stretched between 2 saplings. It is enormous and very fine, and the dew has settled on every strand. In the moonlight, the web glitters like a doily woven of star thread. The spider herself sits patiently in the middle, neither working nor resting, simply being a spider in her web at night, which is a perfectly complete thing to be. The trees thin. You step out into a small open space and find a brook running through it. Not the same brook as before, perhaps, or perhaps the same one having traveled a long way. The water is shallow and clear, and over its bed lie countless small, smooth stones, each one a little jewel of gray or white or pink or pale green. A little wooden bridge crosses the brook, old, mossy, handmade, the kind of bridge a lost boy might have built one afternoon long ago and forgotten about. You step onto it. The boards give the softest of creaks beneath your weight, like a drowsy welcome. You stop in the middle, lean on the rail, and look down at the water. The water carries the moon along with it, in a wobbling, scattered version of itself. You watch the moon ride away beneath your feet, downstream, and never run out, because more moon arrives at once from upstream for a long, dreamy time. Peter has gone ahead. You can just glimpse him through the trees on the far side. His shape patient and easy, but he is in no rush, and you are in no rush, and the brook is in no rush, and the moon is in no rush, and so the bridge is a very good place simply to be. When you do at last cross over, the path on the other side leads you gently uphill. The trees here change. They become old, very old, with great wide trunks and roots that arch above the ground like sleeping serpents. Mosses cover their bark in soft green coats. Mushrooms grow at their bases in stair-step rings, tiny ones at the bottom, larger ones higher up, as though arranged for the use of small persons climbing. It occurs to you that this part of the forest feels older than the rest, as though it has been here longer and remembers more and has decided to stay quiet about it. From the corner of your eye, you sometimes catch a movement, not a frightening movement, a polite one. A small gray rabbit, perhaps, slipping behind a root. A pair of bright eyes peering out of a hollow and then gently withdrawing. A creature that might be an enormous moth, or might be a very small, sleepy owl, gliding from one branch to another and settling there like a folded leaf. You are being noticed in the kindest way by an entire forest of small, dignified beings who have decided you are quite all right. You come out after a while into a high clearing, higher than the rest of the wood. Here the ground is rocky, and the rocks are warm, and a single old crooked tree stands in the middle, its bare branches reaching up toward the stars like the hands of a contented old grandmother lifting them in welcome. The view from this clearing is wonderful. You can see the sea, far off, dark and silver. You can see the lagoon and the dunes and the distant ship at anchor. You can see far below the dim glow of the home under the ground and the soft far fires of the Indian camp and the slow blink of the meadow's fireflies. All of Neverland lies sleeping. And you stand above it very small, very still, very low, and for a little while neither of you moves. He sits on one of the warm rocks, his elbow on his knee, his chin on his fist, and he looks out over his island the way one looks at a beloved face that has finally fallen asleep, with great quiet tenderness, and no need to disturb it. Tinkerbell drifts down from his shoulder and lights upon the back of your hand. You can feel her there as the faintest warmth, the gentlest pressure, no heavier than a breath. She regards you with grave little eyes. Then she yawns again openly this time and curls up in the small valley between your thumb and forefinger, as if your hand were a tiny sofa. You hold very still, so as not to disturb her. The fairy fits perfectly. After a moment, she begins to glow more softly, more slowly, the rhythm of her light matching the rhythm of your own breath. Bright and soft, as though your breath were lighting her, or as though her light were teaching your breath what to do. It is hard to tell which. The sky above the clearing is enormous. The stars are layered, deep behind deep, the way old paintings are layered with glaze upon glaze. Some stars are bright and near, some are tiny and far. Some are so faint you can only see them by looking just to one side of them. The longer you look, the more of them appear, until the sky is more star than dark. A shooting star slides slowly across the dome. So slowly, in fact, that it can hardly be called shooting. It is more like a star ambling, in no great urgency, from one side of the sky to the other. You watch it the whole way. It does not burn out. It simply joins the field of other stars on the far side and settles in, as if having moved house. You hear from far below a single low note from the Indian drum, a soft thump like a heart turning over once in its sleep, and then nothing more. The drummer, too, has nodded off. Neverland is being slowly tucked in around you, in layer upon layer of quiet. You are inside the tucking. You are part of the quiet now. Tinkerbell glows in your palm. Soft, 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 and your own eyelids feel their weight, kindly, as though they were small velvet curtains being drawn over a much-loved stage at the close. Tinkerbell stirs, lifts from your hand without quite waking, and floats sleepily back to Peter's shoulder, where she tucks herself once more under his hair. Peter rises. He stretches, slowly, almost luxuriously, the way a cat stretches, and gestures with his head toward the descending path on the far side of the clearing. You follow. The path winds gently down through the old forest, and now the trees feel like a great procession of friends standing on either side of you, leaning in slightly, breathing slowly, watching you home. You pass after a while a glade you have not seen before. In its center stands a small ancient stone, half sunk into the earth, carved with worn shapes that might once have been letters and might now be only suggestions of letters. Around the stone, a soft circle of toadstools glows faintly, the color of warmed honey. 3 or 4 fairies sit upon the toadstools, leaning against one another, their eyes closed, their wings folded, fast asleep, a tiny choir that has finished its song for the night. You tiptoe past, although you needn't have. Nothing wakes them, nothing in Neverland tonight wishes to be woken. The path bears you onward. Now and again, between the trees, you catch glimpses of the silver lagoon, very far away and very small, like a coin lying in a saucer. You catch the smell of the sea, then lose it, then catch it again. You catch once the distant bell of Tinkerbell's far-off sister fairies, like a single chord struck on the smallest piano in the world, and then silence, deep and gentle. Your feet move themselves. You do not remember telling them to. The path knows the way. The night knows the way. Peter knows the way. There is nothing for you to do except be carried gently through the unfolding of one quiet place into the next. The trees thin. The path widens. A familiar smell reaches you, earth and wood smoke, and the faint sweetness of the leaves the lost boys use for their beds. The great tree rises up before you again, broader at the base than ever, its huge trunk silvered by moonlight and rooted as deep into the island as a thought is rooted into a dream. You are coming home in the soft sense in which Neverland uses the word home, meaning a place where one is allowed to lay down everything. The cluster of 7 hollow trees ringing the great trunk. Each entrance breathes out a faint, warm air from the home below, the air of sleeping boys and embers and earth and the particular safety of underground places. You choose your tree again. You sit at its mouth. You lean back. The wood receives you. And you slide, slowly, very slowly this time, as though the tree itself were reluctant to let the journey end too quickly. Down through its smooth heart, down past layers of root and moss and sleeping insects, and into the round, dim, golden-lit room beneath. The room is just as you left it. The fire still glows, lower now, more ember than flame. The lost boys still breathe in their leaf-lined nests. The long table still bears its small treasures. The lantern still hangs from the rafter of root, casting its honey-colored light over everything in slow, soft sweeps. Your hollow waits for you. The folded cloak waits. The leaves waits. You climb in gently and the leaves rustle a quiet welcome. You pull the cloak up. Its weight is the perfect weight. It feels in the strangest and best way as though it has been warmed by your absence. As though some kind sleeping thing had been minding it for you while you were gone, and only just now slipped out to make room. Peter settles this time into his own hollow, opposite yours. You can just see him in the dimness. A tousled head, a shoulder, the curve of an arm. He smiles at you, briefly, the way one captain might smile at another captain whose ship has come safely into harbor. Then he closes his eyes. Tinkerbell goes to her curtained alcove. Through the gap, you see her settle herself among her rose petals. Her glow softens, 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 until it is no more than the memory of a glow, like the last light of a sunset after the sun is gone. The room is full of breathing, the slow, deep breathing of small, sleeping boys, the slow, deeper breathing of the earth itself all around, the soft sigh of the fire as it sinks toward sleep, and your own breath joining all of theirs, slow and unhurried, falling into the great breathing of the room as one more soft note in a long, low chorus. You are not asleep yet. You are only resting deeply, drifting. Like the leaf underground room, your eyes drift, half open, over the small treasures on the long table. You can only just make them out by the last gold of the embers. A small carved wooden bird, a spool of red thread, a row of acorns standing up like little soldiers in their caps. A button, very large and very polished, possibly fallen from a pirate's coat in some long forgotten and now thoroughly forgiven encounter. A folded paper boat, a single white feather. Each object glimmers faintly, as though dreaming its own small dream. The carved wooden bird perhaps dreams of flying. The spool dreams of unrolling itself across the floor. The acorns dream of becoming oaks, slowly and with great patience. The button dreams of the coat it was once sewn to, and the coat, somewhere far away, dreams of the button. You let your gaze move from object to object slowly, the way a hand might trail through warm water. Each thing seems to nod at you in passing, the way familiar things nod when you come into a room. You do not need to remember any of them. They will be here. They will always be here. The lantern at the rafter swings very gently, as though stirred by the breath of the room. Its light moves across the walls in slow, soft circles, across a wooden bowl, across a sleeping lost boy's hand, curled like a pale shell, across the curve of Peter's brow, across your own coverlet, across the wooden bowl again. You follow the slow swing of the light with your eyes. Wall, ball, hand, brow, coverlet, ball, wall. The light sweeps you, very gently, into a kind of trance. Your eyelids grow pleasantly heavier with each pass. The wall seems farther away each time, the bowl smaller, the light kinder. From somewhere far above on the surface of the island comes the softest of sounds, a single distant note, a high, clear bell. And then it is gone, and the silence that follows it is somehow even kinder than the bell. You cannot quite tell anymore where the lantern's light ends and your own thoughts begin. The two seem to be the same warm, golden thing, swinging slowly across the inside of your mind, lighting little objects there and letting them dim again. A nursery, a star, a flying boy, a meadow, a lagoon, a folded leaf boat, a sleeping fairy curled in your palm, wall, bowl, hand, brow. You are very, very nearly fully. The dim gold of the room is still there, soft against the inside of your eyelids, like the afterglow of a candle that has just been carried out of the room. In this gentle dark, the sounds of Neverland gather around you, not loudly, but all together, like the instruments of a very small, very tender orchestra, tuning quietly down to silence. There is the slow breathing of the lost boys, in and out, in and out. 5 small chests rising and falling, slightly out of time with one another, so that the breaths overlap into one long, continuous breath that the room itself seems to be taking. There is the soft settling of the fire. Every now and again an ember collapses with a sigh, sending up the smallest puff of warm light against your closed eyelids before sinking back into glow. There is the faint creak of the lantern on its rope swinging less and less. There is, far above, the long sigh of wind in the topmost leaves of the great tree, a sound so much like the sea that you cannot quite tell anymore whether it is the tree or the lagoon you are hearing. There is, somewhere even further away, the slow lapping of the lagoon itself, where the mermaids have gone to their deepest pools and continue to sing in voices that no longer break the surface. There is somewhere beyond even that, the slow rocking of the pirate ship at anchor, its lanterns dim, its sails furled, its crew snoring in their hammocks, harmless and content. There is, at the meadow's edge, the last few fireflies, drifting now nearly without motion, like small embers floating in still water. There is, in the high clearing, the crooked old tree, lifting its bare arms to the patient stars. And there is, all around you, woven through everything, a fine, soft drifting of fairy dust. Tiny gold motes turning very slowly in the air of the room, settling on your eyelashes, on the cloak, on the table, on the embers, on the brows of sleeping boys. The dust is not in any hurry to settle. It has all night. It has every night. You feel yourself becoming part of the dust, part of the breathing, part of the slow golden orchestra of Neverland sleeping. You are no longer a separate listener. You have been listened into the very softly, to dim around you, not in any unkind way. Only the way a beautifully lit room dims when someone you trust turns down the lamps one by one, because it is time. The lantern on the rafter has stopped its swinging. Its light has shrunk to a small, warm point, like the last star at the end of dawn. Only this is not dawn. This is the deep middle of the night, where dawn does not come for a long, long while. The fire in the hearth has sunk to a soft red glow, no brighter than the inside of a closed eyelid held up to a candle. The lost boys breathe slow and even. Peter, in his own hollow, sleeps at last with his face turned toward you, an almost smile resting on his mouth. Tinker Bell, behind her tiny curtain, gives off only the faintest hint of light, like the memory of a firefly seen long ago in a different summer. You are warm, you are held, you are exactly where you are meant to be. Your breath has slowed without your noticing. Your shoulders have softened without your permission. Your hands rest open and easy. Your face has gone smooth. Whatever you were carrying when you first lay down at the start of all of this has been gently set aside by careful, invisible hands and placed somewhere safe, where you can find it later if you wish, though you may find that you do not wish. Neverland holds you the way a great old tree holds a single sleeping bird in the curve of its branch, without effort, without thought, without any expectation that you do anything but rest. The golden dust drifts, slower, slower, slower. The breathing around you blurs into one long, low hush. The far sounds, the lagoon, the wind, the distant gentle drum, the rocking ship, the closed flowers, the sleeping fairies on their toadstools, all of these draw together into a single soft tone, like the held last note of a lullaby. You let yourself sink into that note. You let yourself become that note. There's nothing more to see tonight. There's nothing more to do. The sleeping island has gathered you fully into its sleep. And in the kindly dark of Neverland, with Peter dreaming nearby and Tinker Bell glowing softer and softer beyond her curtain, you drift on, gently, gently, into a deeper rest still, as the story breathes on quietly all around you, ready to carry you further whenever you are ready, and deeper into Neverland's long blue evening. And the air around you grows softer, the way air grows softer when a house has finally settled for the night. Below, the island lies spread out like a quilt patched together by a sleepy hand. Here, the dark forest. There, the silver curl of the lagoon. And beyond, the small, bright eye of the fairy glade. You are weightless. You have always been weightless here. The wind that carries you is warm and patient, and it knows the way without being asked. Peter is somewhere ahead of you, a small shape outlined in starlight, his shadow trailing behind him like a long silk ribbon. He turns now and then, just to be sure you are still following, and when he sees you, he smiles. That crooked, careless smile that means everything is well and nothing in the world need be hurried. Tinker Bell drifts at your shoulder. She is no more than a soft golden cold tonight, her wings barely moving. She is sleepy too. Even fairies grow sleepy when the island grows quiet enough. Beneath you, the treetops sway in slow green breaths. A heron lifts from a hidden pool, its wings making no sound at all, and folds itself back down into the reeds. Somewhere a small creature turns in its burrow and sighs. You notice that you are descending very gently the way a leaf descends when it has all the time in the world. The warm air lowers you toward a clearing rimmed with silver birch, and the birch leaves catch the moon and pass it from one to another like a small, cool coin. Your feet find the moss. The moss is deep and cool and forgiving, and it remembers the shape of you at once as though it had been waiting. Peter lands beside you without a sound. He does not speak. He only points with one slim finger toward the edge of the glade, where the fairy lights have begun to gather, soft as breath, soft as the inside of an eyelid. And you understand, without being told, that there's no need to hurry toward them. They will still be there. Everything here will still be there. Neverland keeps its treasures gently, the way a child keeps a found feather in a pocket, safe and unhurried, and yours for as long as you wish. You breathe in the cool green air, opens before and you let like a page in a very old book. A page someone has loved and turned 1,000 times until its edges are soft as cloth. The lights you saw from the air are closer now, and you see they are not lights at all, not exactly. They are fairies, dozens of them, perhaps hundreds, moving slowly between the stems of foxgloves and the cups of evening primrose. Each one carries her own small glow, the way a person might carry a candle through a quiet house. They do not mind you. In Neverland, no one minds a quiet visitor. One little fairy with pale lavender wings drifts close, considers your eyelashes, and drifts away again, satisfied. The grass here is fine and pale, almost blue in the moonlight, and it bends beneath your feet without breaking. There is a path, though path is too firm a word. A softer place where the moss has been pressed by countless tiny dancers, winding between the toadstools. You follow it slowly, very slowly. There's no reason to do otherwise. The air smells of honey and cold water and something like the inside of a music box. You breathe it in, and the breath itself feels golden, as though you have swallowed a little of the fairy light. In the center of the glade, a ring of mushrooms sits in patient silence, pale caps tipped with dew, each drop holding a tiny moon. Tinkerbell flutters down to one of them, lands lightly, and folds her wings around herself. She has decided to rest, and you watch her glow steady and slow, like a heart that has finished its day's work. Peter has stretched himself out on the moss with his hands behind his head. He is humming a tune you almost recognize, a tune that might be from a lullaby your mother sang, or might be the sound the wind makes against a nursery window. You cannot quite tell, and it does not matter. You sit down beside him. The moss receives you. The fairies move around you in slow, drowsy spirals, weaving a quiet braid of light through the glade. And you feel, settling into your shoulders, the deep, particular peace of a place where time itself has agreed to lie down. Time in the fairy glade is a very generous thing. Peter rises onto one elbow and looks at you sidelong. He does not speak in words exactly. In Neverland, one need not always use words. He simply tilts his head toward a doorway you had not noticed before. A small arched opening in the trunk of an enormous oak, half curtained by ivy, with a faint warm light spilling from within. You rise. The moss releases you with the lightest sigh. The fairies part to let you pass, lifting like a slow gold curtain, and you walk between them as though through a corridor of small living lanterns. Your shadow stretches long and soft on the grass. Tinkerbell wakes, yawns. Yes, fairies yawn, and drifts after you, low and lazy as a firefly after midnight. The oak is older than anything you have ever touched. Its bark is rough and warm and smells of long summers. You place your hand against it, and you feel very faintly the slow heartbeat of the tree. One beat for every 100 of yours. The little doorway is just your size, though you're sure it was a different size only a moment ago. Neverland is helpful that way. You stoop and step inside. The light within is honey-colored and low, the way light is low in a room where someone is already sleeping. A spiral stair winds gently downward, carved into the living wood, each step worn smooth by the bare feet of the lost boys. Roots hang from the ceiling like soft brown ropes, and small luminous beetles cling to them, blinking slowly in time with one another. You descend. The air grows cooler then warmer again, the way it does in a deep place that the world has tucked away for safekeeping. The stair turns and turns and turns, and you find that you are no longer counting the steps, that you have stopped wishing to count them, that descending itself has become a kind of slow and lovely breathing. And somewhere far below, you can hear the faintest sound, a low, contented murmur, like the breathing of sleeping children, drifting up through the warm dark. You step out into the underground home of the lost boys, and the room takes you in like an old friend taking your coat at the door. It is round and low and impossibly cozy. The walls are warm earth, smoothed by small hands, hung here and there with curious treasures, a kite without a string, a compass that points only toward bedtime, a tin whistle, a single mismatched slipper, a drawing of a mother done in chalk. A fire burns low in a hearth scooped out of the wall, the flames the color of marmalade, and they make no smoke at all. Above the fire, a kettle hangs from a hook, breathing out a slow ribbon of steam that smells of cocoa and dreams. In the center of the room stands the great hollow tree stump table, polished by 1,000 suppers. Around it, the chairs are mismatched and beloved. A stool, a barrel, a little carved bench, and one armchair so deep that whoever sat in it would surely be swallowed by sleep at once. And around the edges of the room, you see them now, the beds. The beds of the lost boys, all in a row, each one a different size, each one a hollow scooped into the earth and lined with leaves and feathers and the soft inner fur of forgotten coats. There are 6 of them, and one large bed besides, where Wendy might sit and tell a story. The lost boys are already in their beds. They're only half there, really. Small, soft mounds beneath patchwork blankets, with one tousled head visible here, a bare foot there, the tip of a fox-eared cap poking from beneath a coverlet. They are not quite asleep, not yet. They are in that particular soft stage where the body has settled and the breath has slowed, but the mind is still drifting through the last warm pictures of the day. Nibs murmurs something into his pillow. The twins who do everything together sigh together. Slightly turns and his small wooden flute clinks gently against the earth wall and is still. You stand in the doorway and you feel the room breathing around you, slow, contented, full of children who have come safely home. She moves between the little beds the way mothers and elder sisters have always moved, quietly, gently, tucking a corner here, smoothing a curl there, never once disturbing the slow descent into sleep. She wears a long nightdress of pale blue, and her hair falls over her shoulder in a single soft braid. She looks up when you enter and she smiles, not surprised, only welcoming, as though she has been expecting you all along. "There you are," she says, in a voice no louder than the kettle's breathing. "Come in. Come and warm yourself." She leads you to the deep armchair by the fire, and you sink into it, and the chair is as soft as you imagined, and softer. A knitted blanket lies folded on the arm, and pale yellow with little stars stitched along the hem. And Wendy unfolds it, and lays it across your lap and tucks it lightly around your knees. "There," she says, "that's better." The fire warms the soles of your feet. The cocoa-smelling steam curls in the air. From the row of small beds comes the slow, even rhythm of children breathing, in and out, and in again, a sound so gentle it begins to slow your own breath without your asking it to. Wendy moves to the kettle and pours something into a small earthenware cup. She brings it to you, and the cup is warm in your hands, and the drink inside smells of honey and milk and something else. Perhaps lavender, perhaps the memory of lavender. You sip. The warmth travels slowly down through you, and where it goes, the small last tensions of the day let go one by one. Wendy sits on the little stool beside you. She does not feel that she must speak. She only watches the fire with you, and the firelight moves across her face in slow gold ripples. And she looks, in this moment, like every kind person who has ever sat beside you when you were tired. You lean back. The chair receives you fully. The blanket is exactly the right weight. And somewhere, very far above, the night sky of Neverland turns slowly on its quiet. You cannot say how long. Wendy begins to tell a story. Not loudly, not even quite to you. She tells it the way she always tells her stories at this hour, half to the room and half to herself, her voice as smooth as a stone polished by a stream. It is the story she has told 100 times. The Lost Boys know it by heart, and that is precisely why they love it. There is a gentleman and a lady and 3 children. There is a window left ajar and a nursery with a fire screen and a dog called Nana who is the kindest of nurses. You half listen. You do not need to hold the words. The words drift past you like petals on slow water. Window, nursery, lamplight, the smell of fresh sheets, a mother bending down to kiss a sleeping forehead. The Lost Boys sigh in their beds. They are content. They like to hear about mothers. In Neverland, a mother is a beautiful and faraway thing, like a bell heard from across a valley. Wendy's voice slows further. She stops to think of the right word, and the silence between her sentences is as restful as the sentences themselves. Toodles murmurs in his sleep. Curly turns over, and the leaves in his bed rustle very softly. The fire has settled into embers now. It glows the deep red gold of a sunset that has decided to stay. The shadows in the corners of the room are warm shadows, sleeping shadows, the kind that mean only quietness. You notice that your eyelids are heavier than they were. Not unpleasantly so, only honestly. They are heavy in the way a door is heavy when it has been left open, and the wind decides gently to close it. You let them lower a little, just a little. You can still hear Wendy's voice, and the shape of the room is still around you, and the blanket is still warm across your knees. She is saying something now about a star, the second star to the right perhaps, or perhaps a different one, and how it always shines, even when no one is looking, even when everyone in the world has gone to bed. The story does not end. Wendy's stories never quite end. They only soften and soften until they become the rising is hardly the word, for there is no effort in it. The chair lets you go as gently as it received you. Peter is by the doorway, beckoning with that small, careless tilt of his head, and you understand that there is one more place he wishes you to see before the night folds itself entirely closed. Wendy presses a kiss into the air above your forehead. She always does it that way, lest the kiss wake you, and turns back to her sleeping boys. You and Peter rise together up the long spiral stair. You do not climb so much as drift. The stair seems to lift you, as though it understands that legs are tired this late in the night. Tinkerbell trails behind, dimmer now, her glow the color of a candle seen through gauze. The oak doorway opens, and the cool night air of Neverland greets you again. The fairy glade is quieter than before. Most of the small lights have settled on the cups of flowers, where they pulse slowly, each in time with its own small dreaming. Peter takes your hand, only for a moment, only long enough to remind you that you can still fly, and then lets it go again. You lift, almost without noticing, into the warm dark above the trees. The forest below is a great soft thing now, breathing in long, slow waves. You see far off the silver shimmer that is Mermaid Lagoon, and a thread of moonlight unspooling down toward it across the treetops. You drift in that direction, slowly, so slowly that the wind has time to learn your shape and carry you without effort. Stars pass above you in their patient courses. A single cloud drifts beneath you, low and small, and you can see, as you cross over it, the moon's reflection caught inside it like a coin in a pocket. The scent of the sea reaches you before the lagoon does, salt and warm stone and something sweeter beneath, like the inside of a shell. You breathe it in, and it settles in your chest, cool and silvery. Neverland is putting itself to bed. You can feel it. The whole island is loosening its hold on the day, and the air grows softer still. Softer and warmer, and threaded with a music you cannot quite locate. The lagoon spreads below you, a great shallow bowl of water held between cliffs of pale rock. By night, it is the color of the inside of an oyster shell, 100 shifting blues and silvers, with darker patches where seaweed sleeps deep beneath the surface. You land on Marooner's Rock, though tonight no one is marooned, and the rock is only a smooth, warm slab in the middle of the lagoon, broad as a table, dry and inviting. You sit. The rock has stored the day's sun, and it gives the warmth back to you slowly, through your palms and the soles of your feet. The music you heard from above is clearer now. It is the mermaids, of course. They are singing, not to anyone, only to themselves, the way someone hums while combing out long hair. You see them here and there in the lagoon, half lifted on their elbows on smaller rocks, or floating lazily on their backs with their tails moving in slow, lazy figures of 8. Their hair is long and streaming in the color of wet seaweed and dark wine. Their voices are not like human voices. They are like the voices a stream might have if a stream could sing. They do not mind you. You are a quiet visitor. That is enough. One of them, with hair the color of moonlit copper, glides closer and rests her chin on the edge of your rock. She regards you with great calm eyes, the eyes of someone who has been awake all the long ages of the sea, and she smiles a slow, secret smile and slips away again beneath the surface without a ripple. The water laps against the rock, lap and lap and lap. The sound is almost a heartbeat, almost a lullaby. Peter sits beside you, his knees drawn up, his face lifted toward the moon. Even Peter is quiet here. The lagoon is one of the few places that asks for stillness, and even he, who is made of motion, gives it gladly. You breathe in time with the lapping water, in and out, in and out. And the lagoon breathes the way singing deepens when those who sing have begun to forget there is anyone listening. It is a wandering song with no clear beginning and no urgency to end. It rises and falls with the small swell of the lagoon. You notice that the water has become very clear. By moonlight, you can see all the way to the pale, sandy floor, where small fish drift like moving thoughts, and a single flat white shell catches the light and lets it go again. Deeper down, where the lagoon shelves into darkness, you can see the entrances to the mermaids' coral grottos, soft pink and aqua and the green of sea glass, glowing faintly as though tiny lamps are lit within. That is where they sleep when at last they sleep. They have beds of soft anemone and pillows woven of the long, delicate weed that grows only at certain depths. One by one, the mermaids drift down toward those grottos. You watch a slow silver tail vanish beneath the surface, leaving only a ring that widens and is gone. Then another, then another. The singing thins. It does not stop exactly. It only moves further away, as though the mermaids are still humming to themselves on their pillows of weed, and the water is carrying the sound up to you in fainter and fainter ribbons. The lagoon grows stiller. The air above it grows stiller. Even the moon, balanced now above the cliffs, seems to be holding its breath in something like fondness. You lie back on the warm rock. The stone supports you fully, your shoulders, your head, the small of your back. There is nothing for you to hold up, nothing at all. Above you, the stars over Neverland are beginning to do the slow, gentle thing they do at this hour. They are softening, blurring at their edges, the way lights soften when seen through a sleepy eye. The last mermaid sighs and slips beneath the surface. The lagoon is yours and Peter's and the moon's. And somewhere, far down in the coral grottos, a small humming continues, like the breathing of the sea. Or perhaps it does not. In Neverland, time is something the grown-ups worry about, and there are no grown-ups here tonight. You become aware, slowly, of a soft tapping on the surface of the lagoon. A tapping like the tip of a small wooden spoon against a teacup, only quieter. You lift your head just enough to see. It is the crocodile. Yes, that crocodile, the one of legend. But tonight, he is no creature of fear. Tonight, he is only an old animal with a tired green back and slow, gentle eyes. And the famous clock inside him is ticking the slow ticking of a clock that is winding down toward its last comfortable midnight. Tick, tick, tick. It is not a frightening sound at all. It is the sound of an old grandfather clock in a hallway you remember, where you used to lie at the top of the stairs and listen to the house being safe. The crocodile drifts past Marooner's Rock without so much as glancing at you. He is going wherever very old crocodiles go at this hour. Somewhere warm, somewhere muddy, somewhere with reeds. His long tail moves the water in slow, patient sweeps. The ticking inside him grows softer as he goes. Tick, tick, tick. The sound becomes part of the lagoon's larger breathing. It joins the lapping water and the distant mermaid hum, and it threads itself gently into the rhythm of your own heart. Peter beside you gives a small, contented yawn. He stretches one arm above his head and then lets it fall again across his eyes. Even Peter Pan, who has refused sleep more skillfully than anyone in any world, allows it to find him here, on this warm rock, in this quiet lagoon, on this very particular night. You let your head rest back. The moon is directly above you now. It looks like a great pale pearl that someone has hung exactly there for you to look at. You look at it for a long time, or for no time at all. The difference is becoming smaller and smaller and very kindly smaller that it begins to lift you, or perhaps you lift yourself. The boundary between the two is no longer interesting. You rise gently from the warm rock, the way steam rises from a cup left on a windowsill. Peter rises beside you. Tinkerbell, half curled in the hollow of a clamshell where she had settled, opens one wing and floats up to join you, sleepy and patient and gold. You drift over the lagoon. The water below holds a perfect second moon, and as you pass, that lower moon ripples once in greeting, then settles again into stillness. The cliffs slip behind you. The forest receives you, soft and dark. You move above it without urgency, and the trees beneath stir very slightly, as if dreaming of wind. An owl on a low branch turns its great round face up toward you, blinks once with infinite courtesy, and turns its face away again. Even the owl is mostly asleep. The Neverland night is at its deepest now. The colors have grown long and slow. The dark blue of velvet curtains drawn against a winter morning, the soft gold of lamplight banked low. The stars above are not pinpricks any longer. They are great soft blooms of light, the way stars become when seen through a sleepy gaze. You do not know where Peter is leading you, and that is part of the loveliness of it. You trust him. You trust the whole island. Neverland has never once asked anything of you that you are not ready to give, and tonight all it asks is that you continue quietly to drift. You pass over a meadow where the never-bird sleeps in her floating nest, her small dark head tucked beneath her wing. You pass over a stream that murmurs the slow nonsense streams murmur after midnight. You pass over the small pale shape of a sleeping fawn curled in the bracken, its sides rising and falling. Everything here is breathing, everything here is settled. And your own breath, you notice, has begun to fall into time with all of it. The bird, the stream, the fawn, the lapping memory of the lagoon, a single slow rhythm to which the whole meadow at the heart of the island, a place you may not have known existed, though somehow you remember it. It lies on the back of a low hill, open to the sky, ringed by tall grasses that move in slow silver waves. Peter alights here, and you alight beside him. The grass is taller than your knees and the color of pale moonlit wheat. It parts as you walk forward and folds again gently behind you. In the middle of the meadow, there's nothing. That is the marvel of it. No tree, no stone, no ring of mushrooms, only a soft round patch where the grass lies a little flatter, as though many sleepers have rested there before. and the meadow has learned the shape of resting. Peter lies down, hands behind his head, and looks up. You lie down beside him. The grass receives your back, and the warm earth beneath the grass receives the grass. And far below, the deep old heart of Neverland receives the warm earth. Layer by layer, you are held. Above you, the sky is at its fullest. There are more stars here than you have ever seen in any sky. Not crowded, but generous, scattered like seed across a vast, slow field. The great pale river of the Milky Way pours overhead from one horizon to the other, soft as spilled milk on a dark tablecloth. You pick out, almost without trying, the second star to the right. It is a friendly star, unhurried, neither the brightest nor the dimmest, and it winks at you in a manner that is almost personal. Tinkerbell drifts down to the grass beside your shoulder. She has tucked her little arms about her knees, and her glow has dimmed to the color of a lit window seen across a long field. She is dozing in your shadow, and you feel oddly honored. The meadow breathes around you. The stars breathe above. Peter beside you is so still that you might think him already asleep, but for the small tilt of a smile on his lips, the smile of a boy who is exactly where he wishes to be. You are exactly where you wish to be. And the wishing itself begins very gently, very slowly, to do something quite wonderful. They do not move exactly. They drift, as though the whole sky were a great dark pond and the stars were petals floating on its surface, gathering and parting in the slowest of currents. You watch them without effort. There's no need to follow any one of them. They are all of them yours to look at and yours to forget and yours to look at again. You notice that when you breathe in, the stars seem to brighten a little. And when you breathe out, they seem to soften. It is not really happening. Or perhaps it is. Or perhaps the difference no longer matters. Your breath and the sky have come to an agreement. In, and the night brightens. Out, and the night softens. In, and the night brightens. Out, and the night softens. A shooting star slips across the corner of your sight. Slowly, slowly. Not the quick dart of the waking world, but a long, lazy stroke of silver, like a fingertip drawn across velvet. It is not for wishing on, it is only for watching. You watch. And then another, in the other direction. Slower still, pale gold this time, with a faint trail that lingers a moment after it has passed. You begin to feel in the most pleasant way that you are very small and very held. The meadow holds you from beneath. The sky holds you from above. Peter, somewhere to your right, holds the silence between. There is nothing you must do. There is nothing you must remember. There is nothing you must decide. Your limbs have grown heavier, or rather, your limbs have grown lighter, and the heaviness is somewhere else. Somewhere kind, somewhere outside of you, where it can be looked after by the night. Your eyelids lower a little further, just a little. The stars above blur softly into long, gentle shapes, into rivers of light, into a single warm haze of gold and midnight. You are still here. You are only resting your eyes. That is all anyone is ever doing. Softly, a pipe begins to play. It is Peter, of course. He has taken the small reed pipe from wherever he keeps it. Peter's pockets are rumored to be infinite, and he is playing the way he plays only at this hour, when the day has been thoroughly used and the night has been thoroughly entered. The tune is simple. It is the kind of tune that seems to have always existed, that you feel you have known since before you can remember knowing anything. 3 slow notes, and then a fourth that bends a little lower than expected. And then a long rest, and then the 3 notes again. It is a tune for closing eyes. It is a tune for letting go. The meadow listens. The grasses bow very slightly toward the sound, as though they too remember the song. Far away, a single fairy bell answers, one small clear chime, and then no more. The music does not insist on anything. It does not wish to lead you anywhere. It only places itself very gently around you. the way a soft shawl is placed around the shoulders of someone who has fallen asleep in a chair. You feel your breathing slow further. The pauses between your breaths grow long and friendly. In Neverland, no one rushes a breath. Peter plays on. 3 notes and the bending fourth and the long rest. 3 notes and the bending fourth and the long rest. The stars overhead pulse very slowly in time. The whole island, it seems, is breathing in time. The mermaids in their coral grottos are breathing in time. The lost boys in their earthen beds are breathing in time. The fairies on the cups of the foxgloves are breathing in time. Even the old crocodile somewhere in the warm reeds is breathing in time, his ancient clock ticking softer and softer toward the center of the night. And you too, breathing in time. This is the great quiet rhythm of Neverland, the secret rhythm beneath all its games and all its adventures, the long, slow lullaby that the island has been waiting all evening to play. It has played it for you now, and you are listening, and you are letting it carry you, just exactly as far as you wish to be carried. Peter is not stopping. He is only playing more softly, the way a storyteller's voice grows softer as the listener nears sleep. The notes are fewer, and the rest between them longer, and the longer rests are full of a richer and richer silence. You find that you can no longer quite feel the meadow beneath you. That is not alarming. It is only that the meadow has grown so kind that it no longer needs to remind you of itself. It is simply there, holding you, the way a good bed holds a tired body, without ever once being noticed. Your body, in fact, has gone a little distant. Your toes are far away. You remember they exist, but only as warm, friendly facts, not as anything you must attend to. Your hands rest open at your sides. Your shoulders have loosened in the way shoulders loosen when no one is watching them and no one expects anything of them. Your jaw has softened. Your brow is smooth. The small place between your eyebrows, which has worked so hard all day, has decided at last to rest. A gentle warmth rises through you, from your feet to your knees, from your knees to your hips, from your hips up through your chest, settling in the hollow at the base of your throat. A warmth like the warmth of the kettle in the underground home, like the warmth of Marooner's Rock, like the warmth of a cup of milk and honey held in 2 hands. The last note of Peter's pipe drifts over you and dissolves into the meadow. He does not play another. He sets the pipe down in the grass beside him. He lies very still. The silence afterward is not empty. It is full of stars, full of slow grass, full of the breathing of an entire sleeping island. It is the kind of silence in which a person could rest forever if they wished. You let yourself rest in it. There is no hurry. There is, you understand now? Never any hurry. Not here, not anywhere worth being. The meadow turns on its slow axis. The night turns on its slow axis. You turn with them gently, and the turning itself very slowly to dissolve. Not in a frightening way. In the way that all things dissolve as one drifts toward sleep, the edges blur first, and then the colors soften, and then the names of things go quietly to bed before the things themselves. The tall grasses lose their separateness. They become one long silver hush. The hill loses its outline. The horizon is no longer a line but a mood, the mood of dark blue meeting deeper dark blue. The cliffs of the lagoon far away are now only a memory of cliffs, and the memory itself is soft. Peter is still beside you, but Peter too has grown soft at his edges. He is more a feeling now than a figure, the feeling of a friend who is near, who will not leave, who is watching the same sky. Tinkerbell is no longer a fairy. She is only a small, steady warmth at your shoulder, the way a candle is a small, steady warmth across a room. The sky itself has come closer, or perhaps you have risen up into it. The 2 motions are the same. The stars are no longer above, they are around. They drift past you like slow snow, like the slow gold flakes that fall inside one of those small glass globes when a quiet hand has turned it over. You are inside the globe now. The globe is Neverland. Neverland is the inside of a kind dream. A voice, Wendy's perhaps, or your mother's, or a voice you cannot quite place but have always loved, murmurs something you do not need to understand. The murmur